Hello, today I'm going to talk about the impact of 5 communication strategies on ESL students' performance in the University of Taiwan. My name is Grace Lin. I'm an adjunct assistant professor at Dayan University. Many ESL scholars emphasize the importance of strategic communication competence. For achieving a purpose of mutual comprehension and effective meaning exchanging in their second language interaction, the communication strategy should be applied. About the strategic competence in the imperfect English communication, we discover how to interact with limited linguistic knowledge in mind and to expand the source into fluent communication. A scholar called the co-communication strategy as a resource expansion strategies, and they are strategy for how to solve problems caused by constraints of vocabulary or grammar competence. The purpose of learning communication strategy is a fluent interaction, but might be not very accurate. The statement of the problem for the field research. The students' feedback of learning strategy are hardly found in the articles in this field, and not many references reveal the students' learning experience and their true feelings of applying communication strategies. Therefore, this study aims to explore how students value the effectiveness communication and what are the reasons they like to use certain strategies learned, but no other strategies. This is a quantitative study, a quantitative method to distinguish which strategy can be better accepted by the university students in Taiwan. And we try to find out the strategy application performances of two genders. And this is also a qualitative study. The students' perceptions and experience of learning communication strategies will be discovered. This study makes students honestly comment why certain strategies are regarded to be really helpful and why the others are not helpful. About the literature review of this research, we emphasize the importance of communication competence. In the field of English as a second language, McKay emphasized that communication is a real tool that interacts between people in the global village. And the pragmatic communication competence also emphasizes that people need to interact appropriately and politely with foreigners from different cultures. Applying strategy for resolving problems is very significant, which appears in the communication, emphasized by a lot of scholars. And the first scholar of communication strategy is Selinker. Selinker emphasized interlanguage to account for certain classes for errors made by second language learners and identify the acceptable inaccuracy in communication as a byproduct of the impact of the learner to express his meaning in spontaneous speech with an inadequate grasp of the target language system. About the definition of a communication strategy that have been provided in the late 20th century and the early 21st century. Farch and Gasper recognized the communication strategy as potentially conscious plan for solving what to an individual presents itself as a problem in reaching a particular communicative goal. Dornay and Scott in 1997 suggested the definition of communication to be the key units in a general description of problem management in the second language communication. So the definition provided in the late 20th century and the early 1st century might be a little bit similar. Robert Bach classified the communication strategies from his view of the speaker's first language and the second language. With the similar communication strategies introduced by the other scholars, Robert Bach recognized the literal translation and language switch as the first language-based strategies. About the field research between the 1970s and 1980s. In 1970s began their research by creating definitions and by examining the definition that had been developed. In 1980s, the researchers not only defined the communication strategy, but also they focused on evolving a systematic series of techniques in communication strategy taxonomy. For example, many researchers categorized the communication technique and skills from two perspectives of manipulating meaning goals and manipulating forms. About the imperfect language communication by the strategic usage. It has been defined from views of problem solving and imperfect language. However, they are tolerable languages. Coder points out the strategies of communication are for making a balance between the ends and the means of an interaction. Therefore, it is an imperfect language communication, however, it is still tolerable. A limited proficiency speaker will have to estimate what kind of communicative goal he can achieve by examining how much resource available to him. The Robert Bach argues that a communication without employing communication strategies means the learner's proficiency level is high. The lower the learner's level is, the more communication strategies are used, and the byproduct will be more problems encountered, and the more communication strategies are used. Talk about the studies of a communication strategy. A Dutch learner of English, Pulis, had talked about more approximation strategies than a scholar, Yoshida Morris, in Japan. An empirical study of Yoshida Morris in Japan in 1998, she found that the higher-level Japanese learner tended to employ more restructuring strategies. About a recent study of the communication strategy, a Turkish scholar, Kogaglu, uses the university students as a sample and discovered that all Turkish ESL learners apply more communication strategies with female than with the male interlocutors. Robert Bach revealed that for Arab learners of English in Jordan, the lower-level English proficiency learners can communicate and pass comprehensible messages to an interlocutor by resorting to communication strategies. About the theoretical base as well as the conceptual framework of the study. These 5 strategies are mentioned and repeated by a lot of scholars. Reduction strategy and achievement strategy are the major 2 steps of them. In the reduction strategy, it contains topic avoidance strategy, abandonment strategy, and replacement strategy. In another set, achievement set, it contains the interlanguage strategies and the cooperation strategies. Therefore, you can see the meaning replacement involved the usages of use simpler abstract word and maintain the concept and the intended topic and use a general abstract express. In the message abandonment strategy, it suggests to totally change the old topic into a different new one, or to give signal that concept or a topic will be abandoned. Or you should not give up communication, but give up an original concept. In the topic avoidance, it suggests that do not give any verbal response if you don't make sense in the conversation. And you can change the topic instead of containing to maintain the boring topic. And you should avoid difficulty in pronunciation, tense, and words. Another set is titled as the Achievement Strategy, containing interlanguage-based strategy and the cooperation strategy. In interlanguage-based strategy, it suggests that we should describe and exemplify some intended words into a different paragraph in order to express the intended meaning. It also suggests that we can generalize some words by use of subordinate words. It also suggests us to creatively coin the new word to make up a new word. It also suggests that we should restructure some words in the middle of a sentence instead of abandon it. You can change a plan. You can change some other words to explain your intended meaning. In a cooperation strategy, it suggests that a mutually attempt to agree on a meeting should be achieved. Therefore, we should share problems and resolve the problem by joint efforts. And we should signal to the interlocutors in the communication. We can hint our interlocutors that a communicative problem is occurring and he needs some assistance. So we talk about the relationship between the using frequency and the several factors. So we try to find out the correlation between the usage and the effectiveness. So we find out the average of applying frequency for 6 strategies that have been mentioned. The gender differences in an accepting and applying strategy is also discovered. And the appropriate training time for teaching strategy is also a focus. Talk about the methodology of the study. This is a quantitative study. The non-parameter for exploring the higher and the lower applied strategy is applied. This is also a quantitative study, which pie graph for revealing the relation between the proficiency level and the strategic application. So the TS plot for analyzing the appropriate strategy training time is measured. This is also a qualitative study that discovers the students' learning experience and their reflections. In order to raise the reliability and validity of the research, a pilot study is conducted. The teacher Douglas Jarvie in Donghai University had learned strategies with wrestling for 6 hours by illustrating and explaining and demonstrating. Some notebooks that contain sufficient examples, dialogues in forms of 6 strategies, and the DVD for demonstrating the strategic sentences will be distributed to 25 students. So this study conducted in Donghai University involved the class training and the activities. And the researcher Helen Lin had done the video recording for twice for the researchers and the student. The verbatim has been applied to compare and contrast the data that had been collected. Instrumentation, a description of the instrument, the reliability and validity. The communication strategy taxonomy of Farch and Gasper is applied. And the everyday life topic in training and assessment is applied. And the digital camera for recording the performance and the verbatim transcript for analyzing the dialogue is applied. And there are 2 raters for achieving inter-rater reliability. Talk about the analysis of the data. About the quantitative data, the non-parameter will display the average applied frequency of 6 strategies. Then histogram will compare and contrast the differences average applying frequencies between 2 genders. A TS plot will reveal how much does the student improve after 6 more weeks practicing for strategies, which indicates the appropriate length of training time. This is also a qualitative research. About the process of collecting the qualitative data, the student will be reminded to think about why the strategies are useful or not useful during the 3-month training. And the data will be collected by emails interviews. So this study attempts to discover the reasons why the students tend to use certain strategies and why they do not think that certain strategies are useful.